Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris, and this is another installment of An Average Gamer's Guide to Total War Rome 2. Now, before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and just say I'm sorry. I'm just getting over a cold, so if I'm sniffling and stopping to catch my breath a little bit, that's because I'm just finishing up getting a cold. I'm still a little bit under the weather, so please forgive me. But with all of that aside, let's go ahead and get to the topic. So, this is going to be what I call a tactics guide, but it's actually in reality a little bit of strategy, understanding a battle before you get into it, and then understanding how to probably play a fight in general on a map. Now, there's really 3 points I'm going to go over. I'm going to go over how to understand, to look at an army and how it's built, and understand its strengths. And then I'm going to go under understanding the map you're playing on and kind of what kind of army you want to focus it towards. And then I'm going to go ahead and show a playthrough that I played. Going up against somebody and just showing some basic on the battlefield tactics and some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about when you're building an army, and watching that kind of stuff play out. Okay, so let's go ahead and just jump right on into it. So let's see, let's go ahead and load up a balanced army here first. So again, if you guys have been following my channel at all, you know that I love Pontus. Pontus loves me. It is my thing. I think it is just a perfectly balanced faction. It's not the best faction, I'm not going to lie, but it's got everything. It's got the slingers, archers. It's got peltis. It's got plenty of cavalry. It's got pikemen. It's got normal swordsmen. It's got hoplites. It's got everything. It's got everything. I love it. Okay, so all these ones are going to be made up of the Pontus army. But don't worry, because when it comes to army composition, I have 4 different guides that are coming out. You should be seeing them on the sides. Hopefully, as I upload them, you'll be able to click on them and find them. But I'll put it up on the side, on the right-hand side there. Anyways. So this is what I would consider a balanced army for Pontus. So I have a basic front line. I have a second line of my core infantry units that I expect to throw in once the enemy has been worn down. I have some spear flank support. I have normal skirmishers in front that I can later use on to support my own flanks or to support my own center against the enemy. And then I have plenty of cavalry on the sides to be able to control my flanks, and of course with my spear support, that ends up being about half my army is supporting the flanks and half is going towards the center. Okay, really easy to understand. As you can obviously tell, this has a lot of flexibility to it. I have plenty of upfront battle line protection. I have plenty of flank support, and if I feel like the enemy's flanks are weak, that's what I can support with. I can bring my hoplites out right away and start attacking their flanks. And I still have plenty of skirmish. I have 4 units that have very long range that can be able to get in and attack and harass guys, especially against peltis, let alone if you go against archers, being able to use that range to their advantage. So it's able to take on just about any kind of fight. So when you look at an army, you want to understand what it's focused to. And this kind of army, again, is just a little bit of everything. So I think you'll understand a little bit more when I start getting into these other ones. So let's go ahead and look at what I would consider. Let's start off with a skirmish army. That's a pretty obvious dichotomy. So this is what I would consider more of a skirmish Pontic army. If you actually look at this, I have just about half of my guys are focused towards, skirmish, are focused towards staying out of melee combat. So obviously, with this kind of army, I want to try to stay out of melee combat. That's going to be my best bet. So I have 3 slingers, so my main body still has a fair amount of harass, but I'm also focusing on having some kind of horse archers. Now, having mobile archers is going to make it a lot better because I still have a fairly good amount of cavalry for my flanks, so I'm still going to be able to probably control and hold my flanks pretty well, and then I'm going to have the mobility of these archers to get in there and give them some more support. And if my main center is engaged, so my slingers are engaged with the enemy skirmishers, the enemy skirmishers have 2 different choices when I bring in those horse archers. They can either try to fire my archers, which have massive mobility, and then my slingers can still get in shots, my archers still get in shots, or they can go for my slingers, which aren't the real threat on the field when it comes to skirmishing, and they're cheaper units, but then they leave my horse archers, which are probably my more powerful, because I have more of them, my more powerful units. So there's that dichotomy there's that back and forth that you have to look at of trying to throw your enemy off. So this is, you want to try to, with this one, I'm not gonna have as much center fold. I only have a couple pikemen. I only have a couple guys. So this is really just playing, a weak center, and they're going to be more meant of backing up, backing up, backing up, and just kind of protecting the skirmishers, protecting my slingers. So if my enemy starts marching on me, I'm just going to move my entire full center back. And what that allows me to do, especially if I've already captured the flanks, is to move my flanks up, and now I have them slightly enveloped. So this is about staying out of melee combat as long as you possibly can until it's advantageous for you to get into melee combat. So that's how you would understand, just looking at it, what kind of army this would be. Now we kind of get into a little bit of the gray area. I'm going to go ahead and jump into mobility. Now mobility, I'm speaking more in the sense of cavalry because of the fact that they are able to move so quickly around the field. That rush is not necessarily going to mean that, okay? So I just want to separate that out right away. So in a mobility army, you notice I still have a couple horse archers here because I want all my focus for my damage is going to be in my mobile army. I still have a pretty strong center line, and then I also have hoplites. I have 4 units of hoplites, and the reason why this is a big deal for me is because they have rapid advance. Now this is a nice bonus, although it gives them fatigue. If I really need my units to be somewhere, it's going to allow me to get those units there that much faster. And because hoplites are typically nice heavy infantry, they're probably going to hold out pretty long even with a decent amount of fatigue. So they can get in there, hold down an enemy unit, and then I can bring in my Pontic swords and I can bring in my cavalry. That's what I'm trying to use these hoplites for, not necessarily like you would with like a Spartan army where they are your main thrust, they are your main force, okay? The whole idea with the mobility army is to get in, get around, to take your cavalry behind the enemy, to take them to the sides, to lock down their cavalry, and to go around the back and harass them, to take those pikemen front lines that you see in Hellenistic armies and have to make them turn, to have to make them respond to your movements. Okay, that is key point number 1 when it comes to fighting, is even when you're playing defensive, is you want to have tricks up your sleeve to where you have to make the enemy react to you. That is number 1, is knowing that your enemy is reacting to you, and so you can expect them to do certain things, and then they will play right into your hands, okay? Mobility armies are quintessentially that. Is if you've taken out their cavalry, if they only bring like 3 units of cavalry, and I'm clearly going to be able to beat that with this. I got plenty of spear, and I got plenty of my own cavalry, then I can hopefully throw them off. I can bring my guys around their flank. I can bring them around the back. Now they're scattered. They are being, this whirlwind is going around them as my main front is moving up into them, and I can use them to hammer and anvil in the back. I can use them to slam in from the side. If they turn guys away from me, then there's still guys on all 3 sides of them, so I might be able to get in a rear charge still from my own cavalry. That's the entire thing about mobility. It's a little bit more difficult because you have to micromanage a bunch of different groups of guys, but when it's done right, it is just glorious. Okay, so now a rush army is like mobility, but instead is what you're trying to do is you're trying to bring up your entire army as quick as possible and throw off the enemy. Okay, so I have a ton of cavalry. Now I have 2 units of what's like lighter cavalry, because what I want to try to do with these guys is I want to shoot these guys as straight towards where I think the enemy is. Okay, I want to just go bam straight out of the gate, and these guys are going to immediately have my enemy questioning what's going on, and now I have all the view on where their army is, and I can send 2 units and 2 units in one side, and I can send another 2 units to the other side and move up my army as quick as I possibly can towards where the enemy is. And I can start outmaneuvering and outflanking them and making them react. I've had people take 2 units of light cavalry and completely destroy my skirmishers because they just barely slipped through my vices. When I had 2 units of spears going on each side, they literally slipped through and I was about to hit them. It was ridiculous. So if you play this right, again, this takes a little bit more micromanaging and kind of like understanding where the enemy is. But if you play it right, you're totally talking about taking an enemy who's expecting to just march his troops up, let his archers fire or his slingers fire, and then charge in. What you're doing instead is saying, buddy, you have to react to me. I'm on all sides now. I see where you're at. Look at my hoplites coming in from, and not even coming in at a straight line. You're coming in now from their back right and back left. You're coming in from the center. You're coming in from the sides with your infantry and your cavalry. That's what you want to do. You want to have them splayed out and just coming from all directions with the rush army. You want them to react to you. So those last 2 armies are exactly that, is trying to make them react to you. Okay, so now that you kind of understand what the different armies look like and how they're supposed to play, against a balanced army is kind of something you can play a little bit everything. Skirmish army is kind of something you're going to play a little bit more defensive, but as I'll talk about later, in those wooden maps, although you're going to have a lot of like wood to block your projectiles, at the same time, that also gives you a massive advantage because they're not going to know where you are. So if you can kind of coax them in with one group of archers, and then you have another one start shooting while you pull your other ones back. Now you have another. You're still getting in those extra shots. So that's the whole idea with the skirmish army. When you get into the mobility and rush armies, that's about controlling the field, controlling that battlefield, and throwing the enemy off. Okay, and that's what you're gonna want to see. What you'll end up seeing with a lot of like these really great players. So let me go ahead and break down. There's 4 different maps I want to kind of talk about here. I'm going to just say in general, I'm not going to mention the balanced army because I really think the balanced army can be taken just about anywhere. This, though, map right here, like you can see in this preview right here, this is the kind of map that I would say is best for a mobility army, okay? This kind of army, this kind of map, what it allows you to do, allows you to see exactly where the enemy is, it allows you to never, like, there's no way you're going to get surprised, okay? So without surprise being on their side, without ambush being on their side, you can control everyone's reactions by having the flanks and all that support. The only thing that they could possibly do is have pikemen set up in like a square and hope to outweigh you. But if you have any kind of if you have any kind of like normal melee infantry and you can break up that formation and then you can bring in your cavalry, that's what you're going to do. So even then, they're not going to necessarily outlast you with that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's what I would consider for more of a mobility style army map. Okay, and then this is what I would kind of look at for maybe a skirmish or a rush army. Okay, the only reason why a rush army might not do so well here is because of the fact that there is a little bit of chance of hidden units. But what's nice here is, like, say I'm deploying from the south here, and my enemies in the north. Say the bulk of their army is out in the open, I can still swing my own units around here, and I can still harass my light cavalry, bring them around, and understand exactly what's going on. Probably try to stay out in the open and see where more of their army is as they kind of adjust to me, and I can bring my center army up. They might know I'm missing units, but they don't know where they're at because I'm moving them in the forest. I might even be able to bring them out on the sides here without being them able to notice because I'm just constantly keeping their attention in that center. So you have to deal with a little bit of the idea of not knowing where the enemy is, but being able to play that to your advantage, being able to use the hiddenness of all that to keep your rush, like where exactly you're going to attack when you finally do attack, at bay. That's kind of a good thing. Okay, so you might be able to get away with a rush army on an open field map like that, but the thing that sucks about that is you kind of want to try to have a bit of surprise. As you maneuver, they're going to try to outmaneuver you. So when it comes in, again, rush is about getting in there fast. So if they can react in time, a rush army, when they know what you're doing, might not be the best bet. Okay, the other map I want to talk about here is something like this. So this is kind of that quintessential one we've seen a couple times in playthroughs. If you guys have watched anyone do like some multiplayer commentary and stuff, it's got these 2 different hills here in the center. This side is much farther down, so getting cavalry around to flank is actually a lot more difficult than it looks. And so most battles tend to play out over up here on the high plains. This is kind of a good army for rush because everyone's got that ridge interrupting right here, and so what you can end up doing is you can bring your guys up to that ridge as soon as possible and over to the enemy ridge before they even know. They have no idea until you're right there. Unless they're sitting way back, and even then, it shouldn't take you that long to get up to them. If they're sitting up somewhat closer, and you already, just right out of the gate, have your guys that are melee over that ridge, and some cavalry moving around, they have no idea where you're coming at, and you're just pouring over right out of the gate, rushing into probably what their skirmishers are and throwing them off base. So this is something that necessarily isn't a ton of hidden, like through trees and stuff, but has that kind of topography that plays to your advantage of keeping a lot of your units hidden. Specifically, I would kind of frown upon anyone trying to use a lot of this, it's hard to get cavalry. Let me put it that way. It's hard to get cavalry and infantry down a slope and then up a slope, especially when it's so big on this kind of map. So honestly, your best bet is either to rush or just try to control from here and try to control the high ground when you can. But trying to flank, unless you're going against an enemy that doesn't expect it at all, like I usually keep at least 1 or 2 units off to the side just so I can even hold down whatever the hell they're expecting to try to bring through this pass, because it's such a tight pass. You throw in 2 units, you can hold down whatever it is while I peel off a couple units from my main body. So, and then the last one here is the quintessential. This is what I would consider perfect ground for a skirmish army. If you can imagine even like a map that has even like more hills and stuff, you know, I put up some units here, some like I put a slinger or 2 here, slinger 2 here, you know, some slingers here. I have my mobile cavalry here, and these all are supported by some melee infantry and a little bit of cavalry, just kind of spread out and around. What's happening is you typically are going to have a center line of enemies with some cavalry on the side, and what you do is you put some spears here, and you put a bunch of like skirmishers, and you basically just idealize, okay, this area here is going to be where I'm finally making my last stand, and you just pelt them as they come up and just slowly fall back, and you bring some kind of melee infantry with each one of your sections of guys. So basically, as they get pushed, now they go, oh, well, I'm not going to get the skirmishers anymore, I'm going to run into melee. Maybe that's not what I want, and you're just going to keep falling back and back and back. Cavalry will never have the advantage on your skirmishers because you're going to have some kind of melee infantry to protect them, because again, if when almost half your army is skirmishers, you want to focus on trying to keep your skirmishers alive, especially when they have a ton of ammo. And then you can do random attacks with what little cavalry you do have. To when they finally do engage with some of your infantry, you can get some side swipes in and stuff. This is perfect ground to keep your archers, your slingers, and again, I've kind of frowned on peltists in general, but to keep them hidden and to constantly attack. You can have an archer, like 2 archer units, and like some swordsmen. And they're, you know, like say they're right here, right? And they have volleys going off, and the enemy starts coming up close, and you know, now you're losing the skirmish advantage, and you start pulling back, and they've rushed some infantry forward to try to counter that, or maybe a cavalry unit forward. Well, you know, right over here, you rush them back this direction. Right over here, now you got a bunch of slingers and some, like, you know, 2 units of slingers and some archers, and they start pelting into what they were pushing forward to try to throw you off. Now you can turn your guys around if you want to, or keep them running, and the enemy can just keep getting closer and closer into your line of fire. And if they can go for your new their new enemies, or they can go for the old enemies, doesn't matter. You turn your guys around, and they're basically caught in a nest. You've now isolated those guys out, and they are under fire, and they are in melee. They are going to die very quickly. So that is kind of how I would play out a skirmish army. Okay, so those are the 4 different kinds of maps on what I would understand how to bring it. So when you come into a lobby and you go, okay, this is the map I'm playing on. Okay, that's a very open field. I kind of want to play as Pontus. So, God, he's playing as... Oh, God, he's playing as Macedonia, so he's got a lot of spearmen. I think I'm going to go ahead and play... He's probably not going to bring a lot of... He might bring a lot of cavalry, but he probably won't bring a whole lot of slingers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a rush army. I want to throw off his pikemen. So then you just go and you load up one of your rush armies. Boom. Okay, so I have plenty of rush ground, you know, to control it, and then I can throw off his pikemen. Okay, that's how you want to understand it. You go, boom. Okay, I'm going to throw off his pikemen. That's how I would look at it. I would look at it like that. Try to come in. Okay, what's the map look like? Okay, he's playing as Rome. He's gonna have a lot of flexible melee infantry. Maybe I want to do a skirmish army, because I think if I can out skirmish him, then I can at least wear them down before he gets into my normal pikemen or whatever. Okay, that's how you want to understand. You want to understand the map and what they have, what that faction strengths are, and then you want to try to counter that with how you build your army. Okay. So I think that does a pretty good job of summarizing it. At least I hope it does. And then so let's go ahead and jump into my playthrough. Okay, and here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So this is a replay that I did, or a battle I fought before. And I'm playing as Rome here, and I consider this kind of, I don't know. I guess this is kind of like a balanced army. Pretty well balanced army. As the Romans have really strong cavalry, so what I decided to do is I brought up 3 units. I brought 2 Praetorian cavalry on my left flank and my right flank, and then I also brought in a I don't know, we want to call this just equites extraordinaire. And they're more of shot cavalry. And so what I was planning with this army, I don't want to speed this up too much, but what I was planning with this army is I understood that going into this against Parthia, because Parthia is my enemy, that I was going to have to counter whatever cavalry they bring. I also understood they were probably going to end up bringing archers, and so I brought slingers because I wanted to be able to outrange them. Excuse me again, I'm sorry. And so I realized that like my strength when it comes to skirmishing is going to be my range, and I realized like my strength when it comes to cavalry is going to be trying to lock up the enemy cavalry, especially with 2 units on each side. I have spear support on each side with Triarii, and then the rest of my body is made up of Praetorian Guard. So again, I have these guys over here, and what you're going to notice is a couple things. So the engagement plays to a bunch of my different strengths. What I really have when it comes to strength is obviously my infantry is going to be a lot stronger. My range is going to be a lot stronger when it comes to fighting, their archers, and then I also will eventually, you'll see, will end up having the mobility advantage as well. So let's go ahead and see. Move these guys up a little bit here. So I'm gonna move them up, and as you can see, so I'm moving up. If you look right here, if I hold space, I'm trying to adjust it to where, unfortunately, when you just click straight forward, it wants to do it at an angle. So, but I'm trying to get just barely in my range. I'm using my range advantage. This is what I was talking about, understanding your strengths on your army. They're going to do more damage to my slingers, but I'm going to be able to use that range, so I'm going to use it against them. And you're going to notice that these guys were also upgraded. They got several chevrons each, and you'll just see quite quickly here, I'm just going to get a hail of them in here. And because my opponent did not react fast enough to either bring them in or pull them away, they just start getting absolutely decimated. Like I said, look at that. Just these guys are 4 chevrons, and they're already getting routed. So one of the other plays that you're going to start seeing here is, remember how I was talking about trying to use your cavalry to get around the enemy's sides? Perfect timing. There is no enemy cavalry here. Once he starts moving his entire army, I know these guys are going to be free to reign. So what I try to do is, seeing that almost all his cavalry is here, I pull back my slingers, because I'm going to try to use them to support my sides whenever I can. You notice I broke them in half and just sent them straight back. I try to send them away from running into my guys, but I notice there's some cavalry moving up here, so I want to make sure my slingers do get away from it. So these guys run through a little bit here. So I start moving these guys up. So I'm going to slow this down real quick to make sure I can break this down properly. So what I do is I have Triarii here, so I know that if he charges, even if he charges my Praetorian Guard, they're going to hold because they're heavy infantry, and then I'm going to be able to get a side charge in with my Triarii, and I want to lock down this front. These guys are, to me at least, these guys are clearly going to try to support his cavalry. I get in that charge, I'm going to bring my Triarii in, and I'm going to try to lock down the rest of his guys that are here just into a mosh. If mobility is going to be my game, what I want to do is I want to lock down as many units with of his guys with as few units of mine. Okay, so notice that this is already 2 units of median cavalry, and then we've got another unit of median cavalry, and then I'm sending in another unit of Praetorian cavalry, and this isn't getting my equites in. Sorry, and I'm gonna lock down 2 to 3, maybe even 4 units of cavalry here. So that's just with 2 units. That is a massive bonus here. And again, this is against Parthia, so this is what they're supposed to do. So let's go ahead and play it here. And so you see here is I bring around 3 units of cavalry. Now this can totally screw them over. So what's up happening is he has to bring his hoplites around. He has to bring 2 units of hoplites around to try to go ahead and stop me. So you know what I do is I bring my equites back center, I juke him out, and then I bring my Praetorian cavalry back to us. So now I have him on 2 different sides here. I have his rear and I have this side. I'm locking down his other flank so he has no mobility. The center is already going to be pretty much mine. You notice I'm moving in my Praetorian Guard to get off a flank on these Parthian swordsmen, which will go down quite quickly. And I'm going to start moving in my cavalry here to go ahead and get in a nice strike. Now these guys I mismanaged a little bit here. They get caught just barely by some hoplites, and because of the collision detection, the way everything's working out now, the way they adjusted the game, these guys just completely lost their charge. But it's okay because I ended up getting them back. So look at this nice open juicy spot. I have basically, if you look at the way this battlefield is formed, I have enclosed all their cavalry. Their cavalry has no movement on me. Their cavalry is, and I totally didn't even end up using this unit in this fight, sadly, but I've locked down with just 2 units. I've locked down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units of cavalry, and then I also have these noble horse archers here, which got locked down and are starting to waver as well. I got complete free roam on this side. I have my Triarii, which are going to move in, and I also have my Equites. I still have slingers in here, which I'll move up as support. And I have these Praetorian cavalry, which can now come in and slam in here or slam in here. I have total free reign. So this is what ended up happening when he lost his flank to me, and I shut down his other flank here. If he had been able to win a good quick cavalry fight here and push me, he could have done it. But instead, I used the cavalry what they're for. These cavalry are meant to sustain, and I built a line here, and I just said, nope, you will go no farther. And I supported it with Triarii that ended up coming up, and I even had to use a little bit of my Praetorian Guard, but that's not a big deal. So as you'll see here, is I bring in my Praetorian cavalry, and they're going to get a sweet charge in here on a bunch of horse archers and just round them all up. So now I got them smashed up to bits. Their horse archers are down. I bring in my Equites. They smash up some Parthian swordsmen. There's some elite archers here. I got my Triarii in. I get my cavalry out after taking some decent damage, but they get some more smashing on these elite archers. The enemy is just in complete disarray. And like I said, so this is a perfect example of how this should normally play out. This plays out really well because of the fact, again, I had the mobility advantage. I used the advantage in my skirmish that what could have potentially been very strong skirmish units got absolutely shut down by my slingers, because I used the range to my advantage. What could have been potentially strong cavalry got shut down because I formed a wall with cavalry that is heavy enough and meant to sustain against those kind of fights. And then I supported them with units that have weapons that counter that specific kind of unit that I was going for. And at this point, I'm just basically trying to mop them up, because this is my battle to lose, which I don't end up losing. And so I'm able to even crush these hoplites once I can get some more support in, even with my Praetorian cavalry there, and these mercenary hoplites go down. And again, you notice I didn't use this one, I barely used this one, and I didn't really even move up my slingers a whole lot. So like, this is something that you can do even without like necessarily playing at your best. And there is a little bit of unit balance and stuff like that. My enemy didn't really necessarily bring the best units, but all that considered, I still think it's a very good illustration of how to go about these kind of battles. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this guide. I think it did a pretty good job of explaining everything. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and favorite. Please share with your friends, and feel free to comment down below. Tell me what you thought. Any other guides or questions that you might have, feel free to message me, and I'll see you guys next time.